A bit of spoiled egg fried rice. After eating, the feeling of fullness is +3, and the stamina increases by 3. There is a 10% chance of falling into a negative state and colic. South City. A farm in the suburbs. Li Tianran looked at the words appearing in the void, stood up, walked the fragrant egg fried rice from the front of the girl opposite him, and smiled. It's been a long time. It may be broken. I'll change it for you. 1 serving. I didn't plan to eat. The girl was a little reserved, and her dress was exquisite. She was a little out of tune with the slightly old environment around her. She frowned slightly and said, Li Tianran, I have had enough. If I guard this broken garden and refuse to move, I will break up with you. Li Tianran, who was about to carry his plate, stopped after hearing the words, looked at his girlfriend, and corrected his expression blankly. Please be clear, this is not a broken garden, but a combination of catering, planting, fishery and animal husbandry. Farm. In addition, all your expenses this year have been earned by me from what you call a broken garden. Including this Chanel worth 30,000 yuan on you. Li Tianran. Male. 26 years old. Unemployed, he runs a broken manor uploaded by his ancestors. The specific work is farming and raising sheep. The girl in front of him, Zhongling, is his girlfriend, and the relationship between the two is very good. To be precise, it should have been good. Li Tianran, I'm not kidding you. My colleagues in the company are laughing at me for finding a farmer to be my boyfriend. If you don't change jobs, we won't get married. Zhongling frowned and stared. Li Tianran's eyes spoke word by word. Li Tianran frowned. 3 months later, it is their wedding date. He looked up at the slightly dilapidated farm outside the window, feeling agitated in his heart. Another series of data came into view. A poorly run manor. Area, 30 acres can be used for fishery, animal husbandry, planting, and construction. Profit and loss status, loss 7 days ago, his body suddenly changed, and all things, this series of remarks would appear before his eyes. But after testing, he found that this ability had no higher effect except for more intuitive investigations, and most importantly, his ability could only be used in his manner. After he left, it's no different from ordinary people. This may be a kind of existence called golden finger, but it is a pity that its appearance has not changed Li Tianran's life. He still did not get rich overnight and embarked on the pinnacle of life. Even now he is facing the embarrassment of being divorced by his girlfriend. After a long silence, Li Tianran finally compromised and sighed and said, "Okay, I can go out and find a job." A smile appeared on Zhongling's face, as if celebrating his victory. At this moment, an abrupt mechanical female voice suddenly sounded in Li Tianran's ear. The Doomsday Game player match has ended. It is officially loading. Please wait. Li Tianran was stunned, thinking that something was wrong with his ears, and asked softly, "Zhongling, have you heard anything? Gold finger mutation? Don't change the subject." Zhongling hugged his arms in front of his chest, feeling that he should take advantage of the victory to solve the last nail between her and Li Tianran, so he continued, "If you want to get married, I still have one condition is, send the little oil bottle." Li Tianran's thoughts were suddenly interrupted, the expression on his face froze, and he frowned and asked, "What did you say?" "I told you to send Li Han to the orphanage. Anyway, she has no blood relationship with you." Fart. In the room, a very low voice suddenly erupted. The dinner plate in Li Tianran's hand fell straight in front of Zhongling and broke into countless pieces. The warm rice splashed on Zhongling, instantly staining her Chanel scarf. "Li Tianran, what are you doing?" Zhongling screamed. Li Tianran was expressionless, pointing outside and said, "Get out now, don't force me to smoke you. You are a lunatic." Zhongling was embarrassed and said angrily, "Don't think I don't want it. To tell you the truth, the vice president of our company has been chasing me for a long time. As long as I let go, I can live better than this life 100 times. The door of the manor's reception room was violently pushed open. Zhongling left angrily and resentfully. Li Tianran stood in front of the windowsill with his hands in his pockets, and said to himself, "Vice President of the company, such a great official. I hope you won't regret, idiot." At this moment, two small heads came in at the door. To be precise, it was a little girl and a fierce black-backed wolfhound. The little girl has delicate features, but her hair is slightly yellowish, and she looks a little malnourished. She has a plump face and short hair that is shaved to her ears. After seeing Li Tianran, the black-backed hound shook its tail wildly, and then stared at the chicken legs on the table and couldn't move its eyes. It's a pity that its ears were caught by the little girl and couldn't move at all. Can only continue to whimper pitifully. Li Tianran's eyes stopped on the little girl. Li Han identity, human cub age, 7 years old, force, 1 wisdom, 3 speed, 1 spirit, 9 hunger, 99 evaluation. This is a weak, pitiful, and helpless bear kid, but he is always full of energy and is especially edible. Cauldron, I just saw Sister Zhong go away angrily, did you quarrel? Li Han asked curiously in non-standard Mandarin. Li Tianran nodded vaguely, without answering directly. Because of me? Li Han pouted and asked timidly. To be reasonable, this is the third girl who broke up with Li Tianran because of her. Although she was only 7 years old, she had already understood some things. Li Tianran's eyes softened, and she rubbed the little girl's neat hair into a mess. She is not worthy of such a good connotation. The old one won't go, the new one won't come, I will find you a more beautiful one in the future. Sister-in-law. Yet. Han Han nodded suddenly, then bitterly clutching her belly and said, Cauldron, I'm hungry again. Li Tianran laughed. The feeling of loss of love didn't make him depressed. As long as he saw this little thing, he could cheer him up immediately. Although they are not related by blood, the two sides have long considered each other indispensable people in their lives. Blood relationship is really not that important. I'll make fried rice for you right away. Li Tianran cleaned up the mess on the ground, then wrapped an apron and turned to the kitchen. Before entering the kitchen, he looked at the black-backed wolfhound next to him who was being beaten on the ground by Han Han because he was about to steal something to eat. Little black identity, check wolfhound age, 3 force, 5 wisdom, 2 speed, 12 spirit, 5 hunger, 35 evaluation. This is a loyal and fierce check wolfhound, who only shows tenderness to those who trust it. Note, don't try to hurt its partner. If you see it arching up and showing its canine teeth and making a hoo-hoo sound, run. Run now. Li Tianran was a little helpless. To be fair, what kind of golden finger is this, a master appraisal or a body scanner? He suddenly remembered the reminder that sounded when he was talking to Zhongling just now. Doomsday game. Speaking of it, some weird things have always happened recently, such as the sudden climate change and the blizzard in June, and the sudden death of large tracts of cattle and sheep in certain breeding areas for no reason. Li Tianran rubbed his eyebrows and walked into the kitchen, took out the rice bag and poured in an appropriate amount of rice, and then washed it. At this moment, the reminder sounded in his ear again. Ding! The game is loaded successfully, the shelter is successfully bound, the points mall has been activated, and UU reading www.uuganshu.com novice rewards have been issued. Players are invited to check on their own. The crisp female voice shocked Li Tianran. However, before he could react, suddenly there was an unbearable pain in his head. For a moment, he only felt that his mind was plugged into a large capacity storage U-disk, and countless information flooded in. After a while, he panted and opened his eyes, and was shocked to find that a brand new virtual device popped up in front of him. Interface. The Doomsday Game Player, Li Tianran Shelter, a poorly managed manor shelter LV1 skill reward, real eye level, BNB level. Area, 30 acres. Already, accommodation area, planting area, pasture area, rugged terrain. At this time, the vast farm was cut by virtual lines of light and shadow at this time, dividing 7 or 8 different areas. The 3-level area with plenty of sunshine is suitable for planting, and the growth rate of crops is accelerated. The rich pasture, cattle, and sheep can eat the most fertile grass. The rugged area on the edge is used to build fortifications, with twice the result with half the effort. Li Tianran's mouth slowly widened, and then he saw a very conspicuous scarlet character in the upper right corner of the virtual interface. The end is coming, the natural disasters will destroy the world, the shelter is the only fortress you can rely on, please grasp the hope and build a new civilization on the ruins. The player's only mission, survive the doomsday game and make your shelter the strongest castle. There are still 5 hours, 59 minutes, and 36 seconds before the destruction of the era. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. Destruction period. After seeing these 3 words, Li Tianran's heart was beating wildly, it seemed to have a awe-inspiring magic power, which made people cold. He suddenly walked to the windowsill and looked up at the sky. The cloudless clear sky at this time has become a weird and gloomy shrouded, the shining scorching sun, at this time, seems to be blocked by something, the edge has plunged into darkness, and the dark part is constantly expanding. Eclipse. Li Tianran knows very well that rare astronomical phenomena like solar eclipses will be reported by the Astronomical Bureau and the media a week before they appear. Li Tianran had not heard any news about the solar eclipse before. This means that, the era of destruction indicated by the system may be true. This is not a solar eclipse at all, but a precursor to the coming of the end. The doomsday is coming, there are less than 6 hours left, how should I respond? Li Tianran only felt his head was in confusion, and after forcibly calming down, he pondered for a moment and said in a deep voice, the doomsday, generally speaking, there will be sudden changes in temperature and food shortage. Yes, clothing and food. Food, clothing, housing, and transportation, food and clothing for parents. Countless disasters have proved the same thing. Warm clothing and food to satisfy your hunger are always the primary resources for keeping life alive. Only after satisfying these 2 are you qualified to consider the others. Thinking of this, he pushed out the door immediately, ignoring other things, picked up Han Han and Xiao He, and rushed to the truck parked at the entrance of the manor. 30 minutes later, when Li Tianran returned from the city, his truck was already full of various supplies. From winter clothes to catering spices, there is even a simple diesel generator. It took nearly 2 full hours to move all these things into the warehouse, and Li Tianran's mood was a little calm. Cauldron, are we buying so many things? Han Han was sitting on the co-pilot, with 2 calves hanging outside the door and shaking gently, clutching a chicken leg, and asked incomprehensibly, are you going to open a supermarket? That's right, judging from the types and quantities of these substances purchased by Li Tianran, it can definitely satisfy the supply and marketing of a supermarket. In other words, if these substances are used alone to support 2 people, they can even be used for 2 to 3 years. Be prepared or not? Li Tianran didn't answer Hanin's question directly. After all, things like the doomsday were still too terrifying and unfamiliar to her as a child. He glanced at the system prompt. There is still 3 hours, 26 minutes, and 37 seconds before the era of destruction. At this time, the clouds in the sky became more dense. The sun has gradually disappeared for a little while, and there is an extremely depressed feeling in the whole world. Li Tianran's residence is a 2-story building in the manor. On the first floor, he used to serve as a restaurant for the guests. The dining utensils are all available. In addition, the back kitchen is also connected to a warehouse covering an area of about 100 square meters to store ingredients and some seeds. On the second floor is his room with Han Han. After carefully closing all the windows on the upper and lower floors, after confirming that there were no errors, while Hanin was watching the cartoon, he walked out of the small building and came to the area where the cattle and sheep were grazing. 2 cows and a dozen goats, which were slightly irritable due to changes in the sky, were drove into the shed and locked up, and Li Tianran breathed a sigh of relief. Only then did he have time to carefully check the specific interface of this doomsday game. The virtual interface is very rudimentary, just like a rough web game. There are 3 options. Permission interface, exchange interface, shop interface. He glanced at the permissions interface first. LV1 Shelter Permission, remote control of the shelter /50,000 points. The rest of the permissions need to be upgraded and turned on. Li Tianran raised his eyebrows, and then directly chose to enter the mall interface. The mall interface pops up, and there are only 3 categories for the time being, and the following 7 categories are completely gray, showing activate after the shelter is upgraded. The only 3 categories are upgrades, tools, and resources. Li Tianran raised his eyebrows and chose to enter the first upgrade category. Upgrade the shelter, you can choose defense/expansion. Defense and expansion are 2 different interfaces, and the goods sold are also completely different. Defense class: enclosure, wood, iron fence level, concrete thorns level, alloy fortress level, radar guard, surveillance level, cruise level, laser tower, not unlocked. Warning: player Li Tianran Sanctuary has a defense rating of 3. It can only defend against the intrusion of small wild animals, which is extremely high risk. It is recommended to establish a defense system as soon as possible. Around the manor, a fence made of bamboo poles and iron wires trembles in the wind. Immediately afterwards, Li Tianran looked at the expanding props again. Expansion category: intelligent working robot, household type, agricultural type, industrial type. Expansion category: fighting warrior, LV1 hummingbird level, LV2 hound level, LV3 adult level, LV4 tank level, LV5 mecha level. There were only 2 types of expansion items, and the series of zeros in the price column almost made Li Tianran pass out. This is so fast that he is catching up with his phone number. Generally speaking, this doomsday game is somewhat similar to a disaster shelter or red alert, with the base as the center for expansion or development. Li Tianran feels a little stuffy in his chest. The things in the mall are good, but the price is hard to say. But at this moment, he suddenly remembered that he still has novice rewards that he didn't check. He almost tremblingly opened his backpack interface and saw the package in the shape of the gift box. Earn points reward, 500,000. Obtained radar, surveillance level X3, cruise level X1. Obtained battle warrior, hummingbird X20. Hound class X1. Obtained seeds, corn X30 caddies, soybeans X30 caddies, rice X30 caddies. Obtain the virtual sun, energy. Obtained LV1 crop fast growing agent, 80 liters. Obtained LV1 animal husbandry fast growth agent, 80L. Do you want to take out the inventory items? Li Tianran chose yes. In an instant, a pile of objects suddenly appeared on the open space in front of Li Tianran. And the most striking are those mechanical warriors. 20 hummingbird-class combat warriors were covered with dim metallic luster, and their appearance was also like a hummingbird, fluttering their wings softly. Li Tianran looked at the row of mechanical guards in front of him curiously. His mind was like a high-powered computer, instantly showing the state of these guards. LV1 Hummingbird 1, ammunition load 100/100 damage degree 0/100 speed, 5 lethality, 3 defense, 1 the method of attack is shooting. With his thoughts moving, he gave them an attack command. I saw the hummingbird guard suddenly burst into flames in the next second, and the gunshots continued. A water tank placed far away was instantly shattered. Li Tianran's pupil shrank. This power hits people, it can definitely be fatal in an instant. Li Tianran looked at the only Hound class again. LV2 Hound 1 ammunition load, 50/50ths fuel quantity, 100/100 speed, 4 lethality, 6 defense, 5 The attack methods are ablation, shooting, and biting. There was a flash of fire, and a fire snake about 10 meters away burst out from the mouth of the mechanical hound, igniting a huge fireball in the air. Even at a distance of 10 meters, Li Tianran could detect the suffocating high temperature, and even the steel would be melted. Yes. Li Tianran looked at these things in front of him and couldn't help laughing out loud. Novice rewards are really awesome. With these things, even in the doomsday, there are cards to survive. 30 minutes later, Li Tianran returned to the small building. At this time, his points have been reduced from 500,000 to about 30,000. He purchased 5 surveillance guards and parade guards, as well as 20 Hummingbird-class combat warriors, and added an Iron Fence-class fence to his manor. This can't blame him for being too cautious. In the last days, the evil in human nature will be revealed to the greatest extent. In other words, those who lose their humanity in the face of disaster are themselves part of the disaster. Have to guard. Under Li Tianran's transformation at this time, the manor already had the rudimentary form of a fort. He was confident that he could never be forcibly invaded unless there was a regular army attack. Peppa Pig is still playing on TV, and Hanin smiles heartlessly with Peppa's family following the picture on TV. On the table is half of the egg fried rice and chicken drumsticks. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Li Tianran sat down and picked up the plate and ate it. He smiled and asked, "Why didn't you eat it all?" "In a bad mood. I and Xiao He are full." Han Han shook his head, "This is for the leftovers of the cauldron." Li Tianran was stunned for a moment, then smiled and took a few bites, and threw the remaining leg bones with a little meat to Xiao He, who was watching eagerly. Whoops! Xiao He suddenly leaped forward, grinning openly. Li Tianran breathed a sigh of relief. This kind of day is really pleasant. It's just that I don't know how long it will last. He raised his head and glanced at the unreasonable darkness in the sky. After a moment of silence, he patted Hanin's head softly and asked, "Xiao Han, if the world will continue to be this dark from today onwards, will you be afraid?" Han Han nodded, "Well, I will be scared." Immediately afterwards, she seemed to be thinking of something again, arching her bare feet into Li Tianran's arms, grabbing his arms around her shoulders, and giggling, "This way. I'm not afraid." Li Tianran was stunned for a moment, and then hooked his finger at Xiao He. Xiao He also cleverly jumped onto the sofa, lying next to Li Tianran. Li Tianran looked at the hazy sky outside the window, and knew that what he and the whole world had to face next was the most terrifying doomsday. Therefore, he can only calm his mood by staying with the most important things in his life. It started a long time ago. A pair of siblings and a dog. They form a separate world with each other. Anyone else in the world is outside the world, everything is outside the world, and no one can separate them. Whether it is Zhongling. Still the end. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. The clock on the wall rang gently. The time at this time is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There are 59 minutes before the end. The sky outside the window has become completely dark, and there is only a tiny circle of light left in the sun. Hanin fell asleep in Li Tianran's arms. Putting her on the bed and covering the quilt, Li Tianran picked up the remote control and changed the channel, wanting to see how the media and officials reported on the weird celestial phenomenon. In just a few hours, he read all the props in the system and the mall. There are 3 major categories in the mall. The upgrade category is mainly infrastructure, which is used to upgrade the shelter and build a stronger and safer castle. Tools are some auxiliary equipment used in life, etc. But don't think that tools are only some humble pots and pans. Pull the progress bar back and you can see that it also sells weapons and firearms, various large machinery, and even dozens of tons of wall breakers and tremors. It can be said that all the tools and machinery you can imagine are sold in the mall. The classification of resources is even more. From crop seeds to livestock cubs, including water sources, stimulants, medicines, fuels, and high-powered artificial suns. Li Tianran took a look, and if his points were put into the mall, it would be almost as if they were sinking into the sea, and a little wave would be splashed. At this moment, Li Tianran finally realized the true meaning of the two words local tyrant. If he has enough points, he can arm the manor into a world-class military base in a short period of time. At that time, despite the wind and rain outside, he can stay still. Exchange system. Li Tianran looked at the final interface. The exchange system is the only source of points. LV1 edible crops 1 kg 1 point. LV2 radiation-proof crops 1 kg 10 points. LV3 ancient medicine-grade crops 1 kg 1000 points. LV4 God-level powerful crops 1 kg 10,000 points. LV5 super God-level gain crops 1 kg 100,000 points. The exchange system is mainly used for the recovery of crops, livestock meats, and some minerals, and divides them into different prices according to different levels. This is to make me treat the farmer to the end. Li Tianran looked at the exchange system with a smile on his lips. Although the interface of this system is a bit rough, the supporting facilities are readily available. From supply and marketing to recycling, it is a complete on-stop service. With this guarantee, Li Tianran's mood finally ceased to panic. At this moment, the TV just changed to an astronomy section. "Hello, Dr. Li, how do you feel about this sudden total solar eclipse? Why is this total solar eclipse? There is no early warning in the world." The host in a neat suit directed at the astronomy of the guest show family asked softly. "It's like this, a total solar eclipse is just an ordinary and common astronomical phenomenon in academics, and this time the planet that blocks the sun's rays is likely to exceed the distance limit of modern astronomical measuring instruments." The gray-haired old scholar said in a relaxed tone, "Based on my experience and research in the Research Institute, we have concluded that this time a total solar eclipse is a rare occurrence in 500 years, but its duration will not be long, everyone. Don't panic. I suggest that the audience friends sitting in front of the TV can ask their family members to go out of the house and watch this spectacle together. In other words, this is just a small astronomical phenomenon, and it won't cause any changes to our lives, right?" The host asked again. "That's right." The old scholar helped his glasses and said categorically. Li Tianran watched this scene with a sneer of sarcasm and anger on his face. "Little celestial elephant? This is a big storm sweeping mankind." An hour ago, he posted on the internet to remind the public, but unfortunately his reminder was not taken seriously. Instead, he attracted a on-stop service for deleting posts and warnings from the internet police, and claimed that if Li Tianran continues to post, it will be the IP was directly blocked on the grounds of spreading rumors. Seeing this scene, Li Tianran's heart was also cold. The clock on the wall moved slowly but unstoppably, getting closer and closer to the end, but Li Tianran's mood calmed down. Now that things can't be changed, it's good to keep 1 acre of land. He gave orders in his mind. The parade guards are located in the southeast, northwest, and the gate to monitor and patrol. Each parade guard leads 5 hummingbird warriors and hound warriors to guard the residential building. Once an intruder is found to forcibly break the door, you don't need to report it and kill it. Under Li Tianran's order, 6 eyeball-shaped flying parade guards led the hummingbird warriors to scatter in the manor, like a swarm of bees patrolling their borders. And the hound warrior is like a stone lion suppressed in front of an ancient mansion, standing in the doorway of the small building without step. The cold mechanical eyes exudes a fearful green light. Normally, the sound of needle walking was extremely light, and at this time, it became like a giant bell ringing in Li Tianran's heart. The scarlet reminder of the system interface, there are still the last 10 seconds before the era of destruction. 10, 9, Li Tianran was also following the movement of the second hand, silently chanting in his heart. 3, 2, 1. Li Tianran stood up suddenly. The era of destruction is here. Boom! There seemed to be a roar from the sky and the earth, and the invisible sound quickly spread to the entire world. Time and space freeze in an instant, just like a moment when a poorly made game enters. Tianran Li saw a bird staying in the air, motionless. Immediately afterwards, he staggered back 2 steps, and his pupils suddenly shrank to the extreme. The sun in the sky, completely swallowed by darkness, appeared again at this time. The only difference is that at this time, the sun, which symbolizes the source of life, is no longer full of warm light. It still emits light, but it is like the cold and dying light of moonlight. After a short while, under the gaze of countless people in the world, it burst into a burst of light that was 100 times more brilliant than usual. In an instant, read www.uuganshu.com. The entire blue star is shrouded in extremely fierce light. But the light didn't last long, only about 10 seconds before it quickly dimmed. At the same time, the sun seemed to have completely released all its energy, slowly fell silent, lost all its luster, and became a black stone hanging from the sky. Brilliant ending after the ultimate sublimation. The sun, which had been burning for 4.6 billion years and was supposed to continue to burn, went out. At this moment, the global temperature has dropped by more than 20 degrees in an instant. Li Tianran was stunned. However, in the next second, something that made Li Tianran more unacceptable happened. He saw with his own eyes a dense green forest in the distance turning grey at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's not just peach trees. Corn, rice, poplar, grass quilt, all the plants within sight seem to have all their vitality taken away at this moment, and the green leaves and fruits are covered with a layer of dead grey. It's like a dead zone. This is weird. In the dark, the lives on the blue star that benefited from the source of light have lost all their vitality at this moment as the sun changed. Li Tianran frowned suddenly, feeling his mouth dry. Immediately afterwards, a row of blood-red numbers appeared in his sight again. The first era of destruction has come. Those full of vitality, tall and lush plant life begins to die today. There are still 30 days to come before the second era of destruction. The second era of destruction is coming, which will take away the active and flowing ocean and water life on the earth. Lucky players, please cherish the time now. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. Li Tianran was in place. The era of destruction does not come all at once, but in batches. Plants were destroyed in the first era of destruction, and water sources were destroyed in the second. Li Tianran felt like a big rock was pressed on his chest. If he said that, would there be a third era of destruction and a fourth era of destruction? What will they destroy? After a long silence, the scene of destruction did not continue to deteriorate, and although the sun hanging in the sky dimmed, the stars were bright. Li Tianran never felt that the light of these stars would give people such a sense of security. Although the light has no temperature, it is enough. For mankind, if the earth falls into darkness from then on, it will be the real end of the world. He went back to the room and looked at Han Han. She was still sitting in a dream without worry, and she gave a silly smile in the dream. Xiao He was irritable and restless. Animals have always been more alert than humans. It seems to be aware of something at this time, jumping up and down in the room frantically, whimpering constantly, appearing to be both fearful and anxious. Click! Li Tianran opened the door. He was going to go out to see the situation outside. Xiao He ran out behind him. As soon as he left the house, Li Tianran felt a little uncomfortable, and the cold wind blew his face like a knife. Fortunately, Li Tianran was prepared long ago, putting on the prepared cotton clothes, and he went straight to the direction of the barn. The air was filled with a decayed smell, just like the peculiar smell in an uninhabited house all the year round. He looked up to the sky and saw that the sun had lost its light and heat at this time and became a black boulder hanging in the sky. In the location beside it, there are countless tiny black holes that are constantly swallowing, making its volume decrease little by little. The sun is really destroyed. Li Tianran murmured to himself. The impact of the first era of destruction, from this moment on, has changed the entire world. It not only destroyed plants, but also destroyed the biological chain on Blue Star that lasted for thousands of years. Animal husbandry and insects, which are important links in the biological chain, will be forced to change their lifestyles due to food shortages. Those with strong adaptability will evolve, and those with weak adaptability will be extinction. And this result is destined to affect all mankind. The pattern of the future world is bound to change drastically. Li Tianran stood there thinking for a moment, and stepped forward again. Nearly half of the cattle and sheep in the barn died, and the rest were irritable and roaring constantly. Li Tianran was not surprised to see this scene. Although the first era of destruction was mainly caused by natural disasters indiscriminately destroying plants, the sharp drop in temperature brought about by the destruction of the sun still caused some animals to freeze to death. This also gave Li Tianran some warnings. You can't just listen to the superficial words prompted by the system, but consider a series of possible consequences. At the same time, Li Tianran noticed that the door of the barn was violently knocked open from the inside. After checking it, he found that the largest and strongest scalper in the barn was missing. But now Li Tianran did not look for its energy, but was silent for a moment, turned and walked towards the planting area. A patch of emerald green rice seedlings originally planted in the farm now all appear pale grey. A series of data appeared before his eyes. The irradiated rice is highly toxic. After eating, there is a 98% chance of pulmonary fibrosis, and a 2% chance of causing the eater's genome structure to be broken and reordered. The irradiated land contains severe toxicity, ordinary seeds cannot grow, and seeds above the radiation protection level can be planted. Seeing these two rows of data, Li Tianran suddenly felt his heart sink. The most terrible thing happened. This is permanent damage. From now on, the whole world will no longer be able to grow plants. That is to say, from now on, people will only be able to obtain emergency food and hoarded food stored by the state. After the food is eaten, there will be no new supplies. There is a 2% chance that the genome structure will be broken. Isn't this a bit scary? Li Tianran once again turned his attention to the irradiated rice. As an excellent farmer, he has also learned professional breeding and planting knowledge. Every organism and plant has a unique gene combination structure. Generally speaking, their combination is very stable, but there are accidents. Once the gene combination structure is affected, it will have terrible consequences. For example, grow 2 heads, such as grow 3 arms. It is commonly known as mutation. Just like the Godzilla in the cherry blossom country next door, it was because of the long-term nuclear radiation that caused the reorganization of the genome structure. It was transformed from an ordinary lizard into a big monster capable of daily life. Its genetic lock has been broken, and its strength, size, and intelligence have been greatly improved. But, this is the most ideal and perfect, and it is also an impossible example in real life. 99.999% of genetically mutated organisms, humans, will become deformed, paralyzed, bones grow out of the body, and even become irrational monsters. Can it be possible to produce a Godzilla similar to thousands of examples of genetic recombination? The perfect reorganization. The vast majority of mutated creatures will die extremely painfully with the collapse of their bodies. Simply put, if people eat these irradiated plants, the consequences are 98% chance of dying painfully as a human being, and 2% chance of creating some chaos as a monster. Yukansha.com then died in pain. These things are very dangerous, you have to destroy them all. Li Tianran was also very distressed. These rice seedlings were sowed, irrigated, and carefully taken care of by him, but now they are no longer rations, but poisons. But at this moment, Xiao He suddenly became alert and yelled frantically in one direction. A scalper with a physique comparable to an elephant rushed towards Li Tianran like a tank at this time. Two white dragon-like air waves burst out of its nostrils, and the earth seemed to be under its iron hoof. Vibration: every time you take a step, you can hear the sound of dong 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 just like beating a drum. Li Tianran could even see the red bloodshot eyes in his eyes. That was the scalper who smashed through the barn door and ran out. But why is it so big now? It has doubled in size, the fur on his body is bursting with muscles, and the blood is flowing straight, but it seems to be ignored as if it is not painful. It has been losing blood, and its life obviously cannot maintain this state for too long. He suddenly thought of the variation theory before. This scalper definitely had its genes reordered after eating the irradiated rice straw seedlings. Now it is no longer a scalper, it is a scalper pious. It can also be called Nai Usla. Li Tianran didn't know whether it was his bad luck or too good luck. There was a 2% chance that he could run into it. Its strength and size have been greatly improved, but it has lost its sanity and has become the purest killing machine. Li Tianran watched the scalper getting closer and closer, his pupils shrunk to the size of a needle. At this moment, Li Tianran. Danger. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. The earth shook and banged. Facts have proved that when danger comes suddenly, it is too late for people to respond effectively within 3 seconds. Li Tianran's mind was blank. At this moment, Xiao He roared and rushed out of his leg frantically. There is a huge difference in body shape between the two, and if a collision does occur, the result will be no suspense. But Xiao He is like a knight who is not afraid of death, drew his sword at the evil dragon in order to protect his king. Xiao He didn't directly wrestle with the scalper, but took advantage of his size and speed to jump around the scalper like a fish, and his stern fangs kept attacking the skin where it had broken apart. The scalper was enraged, and turned around and prepared to trample this nasty wolf dog to death first. Just at this moment, a figure shimmering with metallic luster jumped out from the side. Boom! Hound number 1 received Li Tianran's instruction, and threw the mutant scalper to the ground like a tiger rushing to the ground, opening a huge mouth, and the 5 centimeters of steel-forged teeth gleaming at the scalper's neck. Puff! Hey! With the sour bone cracking sound, the head of the mutant scalper was forcibly bitten by Hound 1, killing him instantly. Li Tianran took a breath and beckoned, Xiao He, come here. After carefully checking that there were no wounds on Xiao He's body that were made by the mutant scalper, Li Tianran breathed a sigh of relief. It's too dangerous. In the doomsday, there are invisible crises hidden everywhere, and it seems that I have to deal with these hidden dangers lurking around me as soon as possible. What happened today should happen to Han Han, the consequences would be disastrous. 5 minutes later, a fire ignited in the farm. Li Tianran burned all the plants that had been irradiated, and the mutated yellow beef quality had also changed. Although humans would not mutate if they eat it, they would be poisoned, and vomiting and diarrhea would not escape. After all this was done, the entire farm became a barren wasteland. Tianran Li tried to plant the ordinary seeds hoarded in his warehouse, but soon those seeds lost their vitality, turned yellow and dry, and the data had changed when they were dug up again. Corroded seeds, seeds that have been poisonously corroded by contact with irradiated ground cannot continue to grow. It seems that the seeds that were hoarded are all waste. Li Tianran sighed, but soon, he took out a few more radiation-proof seeds from the system space. Buried in the soil, he watched the seed data very nervously. Radiation-proof rice seeds growth rate, 1% needs for growth, plenty of sunlight, plenty of water growth cycle, 72 hours soon, after another 5 minutes, the seeds did not turn yellow and dry. The growth rate in the data has become 2%. Radiation-proof seeds can be planted. Moreover, its growth cycle is much shorter than ordinary rice, and it can be harvested once in 3 days. Li Tianran calculated silently. In this case, at least his normal life with Han Han would not be a problem. Although he hoards a lot of ingredients, things like vegetables and fruits cannot be stored for a long time, and they will rot in at most 10.5 months. Once eaten and can't get supplements, Han and his body will lose a lot of vitamins in the long run, which will lead to various diseases or weakened resistance. Han Han was awakened by the smell of barbecue. When she walked out of the bedroom wearing Peppa Pig pajamas, it was almost equivalent to sleepwalking, but when she tried to open her eyes and look towards the kitchen, her brain was immediately forced to turn on. Cauldron, eat roast lamb today. Han Han took a short leg and ran to the kitchen, revealing a small head behind the door, staring eagerly at the golden skewers on the kitchen stove that were dripping with oil. The saliva almost came out. Li Tianran did not allow her to enter the kitchen, because the tableware and fire in the kitchen are very dangerous. And Han Han was really pretty stupid before. When she was 4 years old, Li Tianran also barbecued in the kitchen, because he temporarily went to the storage box in the living room to pick up a seasoning, which was only a few steps away, so he did not take it to heart. Don't touch the iron braziers of the barbecue with your hands, so as not to be scalded. But as soon as he turned around and took 2 steps, Li Tianran heard a cry. Hanan is indeed very obedient. Keeping in mind Li Tianran's words, she put her chubby little hand into her arms and did not dare to touch the hot iron drill, but stuck out her little tongue, licked it. Since then, the kitchen has become a forbidden place for Hanan. Li Tianran turned his head and looked at her with a smile and said, "It's almost done, go to the living room and wait." After the temperature fell, most of the cattle and sheep raised in Li Tianran's farm were frozen to death, and the few remaining are obviously unable to survive tonight's continued cooling, and even if they can survive the low temperature, he is worried that these most common cattle and sheep will a mutation event occurred due to the accidental eating of radiated plants. After thinking for a while, Li Tianran decided to slaughter all the remaining live sheep and store the meat. He can almost predict that in the next period of time, the value of vegetables, fruits, meat, and rice will soar. Once the news of the radiation on the earth spreads out, the prices of cold and fresh vegetables and fruits stored in the merchants' warehouses will have to be at least 100 times higher. In the next month, vegetables will become a luxury item that the rich can only afford. But none of this can affect Li Tianran. After only discovering that radiation-proof seeds can grow in the ground, he spent another 20,000 points to purchase 10 kilograms of radiation-proof vegetable seeds and fruit seeds, including oil wheat, broccoli, cabbage, shallots, grapes, strawberries, etc. There is a previously purchased semi-automatic planter in the farm. It took an hour for Li Tianran to plant all the seeds of these vegetables and fruits in the 10-acre greenhouse planting area of the farm. After 3 days, the first round can be harvested. Soon, the mutton skewers that exuded the attractive fragrance were grilled. Li naturally sprinkled a little salt and sesame seeds, and took out some reserve grains from the refrigerator to stir-fry a portion of green vegetables. Because they did not touch the land, these vegetables were not irradiated and were in a usable level state. And some of the fruits he piled up in the warehouse were already in a radiated state and began to rot because of contact with the ground. The earth is no longer pure from today, but has become a source of radiation toxins. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. The green vegetables are cooked, the millet porridge is cooked, and a simple dinner is ready. Because Li Tianran took over the manor, he also learned cooking before. Although he could not reach the level of a star chef, he was still a must. The grilled meat is charred on the outside and tender on the inside, and a simple little green vegetable has a sweet and refreshing taste. Hanan's mouth was full of oil, and he put large pieces of mutton in Ziahe's rice bowl from time to time, and feasted one person and one dog. Taking advantage of the meal break, Li Tianran logged onto the forum. The forum has been fried. The sun collapses, the end is here. Experts of Dog Day, Don't you say this is just an ordinary astronomical phenomenon. Help! All of the jujube trees in my house withered suddenly. My sheep ate a dried jujube under the tree, and suddenly began to vomit blood and died in 3 minutes. Suddenly there appeared a mouse king the size of a dog in Nanjing district, and he would bite when he saw people. Farmland and plants are all withered and decayed. Tens of millions of mu of grain fields will have no harvest. Special. The fruits, vegetables, and rice in the supermarket near my house were robbed crazy, and profiteers increased the price. An apple sold for 50 yuan. A cabbage sold for 180. Li Tianran flipped through the messages, and suddenly, he saw one of these countless posts. I beg you all my friends with magical powers, anyone remembers that about 10 hours ago, a friend posted a post on the forum: a natural disaster is coming, please be prepared? Those who provide clues must have thanks again. Li Tianran raised his eyebrows. The name of this title, this time period, is the post that he once was deleted by Taiba Internet Police less than 3 minutes after it was published. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. Since the post posted by Tianran Li was deleted very quickly, few people saw it. And even if someone saw it, most would think it was just a prank and would not care at all. Taiba is a mixed network community. There are too many phishing posts every day, such as Qin Shi Wang, make money. I am the human body of Diga, and Gorzon will invade the earth in 24 hours, please 300 travel expenses to return to the Kingdom of Light to replenish energy. By the way, Gaia and Tyro are my companions. For those gimmicky posts, Li Tianran's doomsday message is nothing new. After being accidentally opened by some people, they immediately clicked the X in the upper right corner. Coupled with the fact that people were madly posting in the forum at this time, the post asking for help to find Li Tianran was quickly refreshed, and it was ranked after dozens of pages. Li Tianran touched his chin, closed the forum, and did not intend to contact the other party actively. In this end of the world where dangers are frequent, and before the situation is clear, exposing one's identity is tantamount to seeking a dead end. Who knows what the other side is thinking? After closing the forum, Li Tianran turned on the TV again, ready to scan the news. However, all the major TV stations were broadcasting videos at this time, and there was no report of this change at all, and the evening news, which was originally scheduled to be broadcast on time, had already timed out for 7 minutes. Some unnutritious soap operas are still playing on TV. Seeing this scene, Li Tianran's mood became more and more heavy. Even the evening news cannot be broadcast normally. What does this mean? There are only two possibilities. First, the media signals are also irradiated and confused, and normal live broadcasts cannot be carried out. But this possibility is basically zero, because he has just logged into the forum and the network signal is all normal. Second, the consequences and losses caused by this abnormal change are too serious. Even the upper echelons dare not report the truth of the incident to the people at this time. I am afraid that it will cause greater and more uncontrollable riots. Has it begun to die? Li Tianran stood in front of the windowsill, holding on to the railing with both hands. A trace of worry appeared in his brow. The facts are worse than Li Tianran imagined. 7 o'clock in the evening. Nanjing Central Hospital. The emergency room is already full, and some patients can only lie in the corridor and wailing because they can't get a bed. A sorrowful cloud, like a on earth. Director. There was shortness of breath in the second bed, blood pressure dropped rapidly, and blood-oozing spots appeared in the chest cavity. Dr. Liu. The heartbeat of bed number 6 has been arrested. Immediately notify the operating room for rescue and prepare to inject epinephrine. Director. There is no space in the operating room. In the hospital, countless doctors and nurses alternated in a hurry, amidst howling, they even used to shout when they talked to each other. Within 3 hours, 132 severe cases were admitted to the central hospital. The symptoms are the same: rapid fibrosis of the lungs and rapid perforation of the stomach and intestines. Through questioning, they were found to be residents of nearby suburbs. They either ate some vegetables stored in their own soil pit vegetable cellar, or ate some cattle and sheep with a body shape mutation. They developed symptoms of shortness of breath within 10 minutes, and then it deteriorated rapidly, and more than 50 people had stopped breathing when they were sent to the hospital. The eyes of Director Wang in the emergency room were red. Even with his 40 years of experience in medicine, he could not find any treatment that could deal with this sudden and severe illness. He can only use machinery and cardiotonic drugs to force the lives of these critically ill patients. But it can only last a few more hours. After a few hours, these patients will inevitably stop breathing because of the decay of their organs. This is an acute poisoning symptom, but it is completely different from the poisoning effect of any known element in modern medicine. It is impossible to find a targeted drug. Director Wang forced himself to calm down and said to his assistant, "You immediately, in the name of the hospital," an announcement was issued to inform the media and propaganda department that all residents in Nanshan should no longer eat their own stored vegetables and fruits. In addition, immediately find a family member of the patient, go to the suburbs to take some samples of vegetables that cause poisoning, and send them to the laboratory. "Yes." The assistant replied, "Are you Hong Zhong?" Then the assistant was silent for a moment and looked at Director Wang and said, "Director, the classmates I was assigned to other urban hospitals just told me that their hospital also received hundreds of similar sick numbers, plus the sun broke. This is probably the case. A catastrophe sweeping mankind." The director pushed his glasses and asked, "What do you want to say?" The assistant clicked his lips and asked in a tone almost crying, Can we survive this disaster safely? It's 9 o'clock in the evening." Li Tianran finished cleaning the plates and got a moment of rest. Hanan still carelessly sat on the sofa and watched TV. "What's his name is Bar La La Little Moxian." The protagonists wear exaggerated clothes and wield magic wands. They only need to open their mouths and shout a few slogans. Wipe out. Very naive plot, but Hanan leaned forward with a smile. The chaos and changes in the outside world have nothing to do with her. "I am Ling Mixu, and the cauldron is the prince of pleasure. I am pink, the cauldron is blue, and Xiao He is the dark of Gunara, dark, da kill you." Han Han used the hand gestured like a magic wand, and he dazzled Xiao He. Xiao He was lying next to the sofa, a little helplessly cooperating with Han Han to take advantage of the situation, his tongue drooping beside him, as if he had been killed. There was a hint of caring for bare children in the eyes. Heartless happiness is the privilege of children and dogs, but Li Tianran can't enjoy it at all. He glanced at the two extremely joyous little things playing beside the sofa and entered the news web page again. This time, an emergency report has been pinned to the top. As of 21:03 on November 20, 2025, the number of deaths in Yanhuang League, 38021. Global death toll, 486,527. Li Tianran's pupils suddenly shrank, and he quickly followed the report. These numbers are shocking, and they represent a series of vivid lives. Li Tianran quickly finished reading the report. The cause of the deaths of those people was simple: poisoning. Li Tianran knows very well that this is because they have eaten irradiated vegetables, fruits, and some mutated livestock meats. He still underestimated the curiosity of some foodies. For some food bloggers who can even eat centipedes and bats, some irradiated fruits, vegetables, and mutated livestock do not scare them at all, but arouse their interest. What made him even more shocked was that in the report, nearly 1,000 mutant beasts and even mutant humans appeared in many places all over the world. Reading www.yukonansha.com. Li Tianran thought that the 2% probability was not high, and there shouldn't be so many mutations, but he forgot one thing: no matter how low the probability, but the world's population base is so large, plus multiplying the herbivorous beasts in some nature reserves, even if the probability is 2%, the number is terrifying. At the end of the report, it was written in dazzling red font, "All citizens of the Yanhuang Federation are warned to not continue to eat fruits and vegetables stored at home, and do not eat livestock meats with mutations before receiving a new notice." There are not many characters throughout the report, only a few hundred characters. Compared to the previous news that could discuss thousands of words even on social and moral issues of touching porcelain, the number of words in this report on the sudden change of the world environment is really pitiful. But Tianran Li knows a word about news reports. The fewer words, the bigger the matter. He continued to slide down, and within 10 minutes, there were hundreds of thousands of comments. By "Our city is closed, there is no surplus food at home, who can resell some, I will pay 10 times the price." The largest grain merchant in our city was taken away for driving up prices. Scary. I just threw away all the fruits and vegetables in the refrigerator at home, and washed my hands with disinfectant water 3 or 4 times. The grain fields were all destroyed in a few hours. Should there be no famine? The rice noodles in our supermarket downstairs have been robbed. I am going to the countryside to buy a batch. Li Tianran looked at these comments, and he guessed it was right. When the disaster began to show its fangs, the resource that people were most concerned about was food. At this moment, his cell phone rang suddenly. The note is, Zhongling. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. Looking at the illuminated mobile phone screen for a long time, Li Tianran pressed the hang up button. No matter what happened to them before, when Zhongling said that he wanted Li Tianran to send Hanin away, all the relationship between them was severed. Can't stitch anymore. After hanging up, Li Tianran put on cotton clothes and pushed open the door and walked out. He was going to take a look at the growth of radiation-proof vegetables in the planting area. Although in the data explanation, radiation-proof seeds can grow and mature in today's earth, after all, it is the first planting, and no one knows if there will be any emergencies. These vegetables and rice are important preparation materials for Li Tianran, so there can be no mistakes. Li Tianran walked into the greenhouse and felt a warm and humid air coming towards him. A fist-sized luminous body is suspended in the air in this way, providing a precious light source for the greenhouse, allowing the chlorophyll in the plant to complete photosynthesis and absorb the energy in the light to complete growth. This is the virtual day obtained from the novice package. It can provide 300 days of light energy for crops covering an area of 100 square meters. In fact, Suri has no entity, but an energy. Name, Suri Energy, 300. It can be used to provide the necessary ultraviolet radiation for life energy goods, ancient medicine level, God level powerful time to maturity, about 6 hours. Li Tianran felt his mouth dry for a while, and couldn't help but sigh that the system was so awesome. Instantly reduce the growth cycle by 10 times, so that you can harvest the first batch of crops by yourself tomorrow morning. When he was so excited that he could not restrain himself, Li Tianran suddenly thought of something. He opened the system mall and used his remaining tens of thousands of points to exchange 1 kilogram of ancient medicine-grade agricultural seeds. Li Tianran was not too dirty, so he planted his fingers and shovel with those ancient medicine-grade seeds, and was also watered with a stimulant. He didn't have a sudden whim, it was a plan he had already thought out during the meal. Before the end, he thought he had everything ready, but when the era of destruction came, he realized that he was far from prepared. There are many necessities, such as medicines, that he did not have time to buy. Now the entire Nanjing medical system is paralyzed. If he and Han Han suddenly contract some diseases, I am afraid that no one can treat them. An ancient medicine-grade crops, with an ancient medicine in the name, may play a vital role at certain moments. Be prepared. Ancient medicine-grade seeds length of birth, 1% time to maturity, 48 hours. After planting all the ancient medicine-grade seeds, Li Tianran stood up and looked at the land under his feet. In the doomsday, with the land in front of him, he can live more comfortably than anyone. He held his fist and raised it to the sky, and couldn't help laughing. Those who are far away from me, watch. Not only will I live in the doomsday, I will live more wonderfully than anyone else. It's more pleasant than anyone else. At this moment, Li Tianran was covered with mud and dust, full of joy. South City. Tianran Pharmaceutical Company. The general manager's door was suddenly pushed open violently. A young man sitting in front of a computer screen frowned when he saw that he was handsome, but his eyebrows were mixed with arrogance, and his eyes were also cunning like some kind of animal. After entering the woman, he lowered his head and pushed the gold-wired glasses on the bridge of his nose, which well covered the slight anger in the depths of his eyes. When he raised his head again, the iconic Hexy smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Vice President Ren, what do you want to do with me? The young man stood up, neatly tidied the cuffs of the somewhat wrinkled suit, and asked with a smile. The woman who opened the door was only about 25 years old. She was beautiful in appearance and dressed in professional attire. Her beautiful black and white eyes carried a cold light thousands of miles away. Her facial features were like carved jade and her skin was tender. White, can be broken by a blow. There is an arrogant breath called Yinky between the eyebrows, and the red lips are beautiful and plump. At this moment, she walked to the young man's desk and pointed at the young man mercilessly and cursed, "Liang Tianyu, what are you thinking in your pig's brain? The world has changed, and now the entire Nanjing medical system is paralyzed. As a medical company, what you should do now is to lead the employees of the company to actively cooperate with the hospital work, donate equipment and drugs, and fight the disaster together. Instead of letting the employees sit in the office as they do now, keep posting to find the so-called doomsday prophet." Liang Tianyu frowned and looked at the woman. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Is the world destroyed? Are people all dead?" The woman was stunned for a moment. "I am a businessman, and the purpose of a businessman is to start everything from profit." Liang Tianyu said indifferently, "Since the world has not yet been destroyed and mankind has not yet died, I will always chase benefits, and from every unexpected event find opportunities for profit. I don't think the current medical treatments can play any role for the sicknesses in Nanjing and even the whole world at this time. Our task now is to find the publisher of the original post. This change is extremely abrupt. I feel more and more that the post I occasionally saw was definitely not a prank. The post who predicted the end of the day must know something, or he must be able to do something about the current situation. You are also a shareholder of the company and have the right to dividends." Liang Tianyu paused after saying here, then laughed, and said to Vice President Ren, "Can you imagine, if faced with such a situation that swept Nanjing and even the whole world medical care, the disaster of the system, if we can come up with a solution, how rich will we get in return?" At this time, Liang Tianyu's computer interface is impressively the interface of a post that has just been published. The title is, "Continue to ask for help from all the magical friends." Who remembers that about 10 hours ago, a friend posted a post on the forum, "A natural disaster is coming, please be prepared." Those who provide clues, thank you very much. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. The next day, Li Tianran was awakened from his sleep by a pleasant reminder. "The radiation-proof rice is mature, please harvest it in time. The radiation-proof grade cucumbers are ripe, please harvest them in time. Radiation-proof strawberries are ripe, please harvest them in time." A series of beep sounds like an alarm clock, and Li Tianran's still somewhat dizzy mind quickly became sober. It was around 11 o'clock in the evening after he came back from the greenhouse planting area last night. Tired and sleepy, he hurriedly washed and fell asleep on the bed. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. Li Tianran glanced at the clock on the wall. The ripening time of the crops after the acceleration should be around 3 o'clock in the morning, but because Li Tianran slept too well, the prompt sounds didn't even wake him up. It was not until the third prompt that he was awakened. Standing in front of the windowsill in pajamas, The sky outside the window was still grey, with only the light of some stars shining. The sun hanging in the sky like a black round stone reminded Li Tianran that what happened yesterday was not a dream. Han Han and Xiao He are still sleeping. Zheng Xiang. The bear child seemed to have dreams related to the cartoons he watched yesterday. He smirked, and whispered in his dreams, Hanan is pink, the cauldron is blue. Xiao He whimpered and arched his body toward the radiator. Seeing this, Li Tianran smiled dozingly. In the doomsday, this is the motivation to support his struggle. In the early morning after the end, the temperature drop is even more obvious. Li Tianran walked out of the small building in a thick cotton suit, only feeling the cold wind like a knife, and his cut face hurt. After harvesting the first batch of crops, you must redeem some points and buy a few convenient cold-resistant clothes in the mall. Li Tianran complained secretly, and soon came to the greenhouse, opened the curtain and walked in, just feeling it for a while. The extremely clean and fragrant smell rushes to your face. I saw that the entire vegetable garden was full of crops and fruitful. And these crops are bigger than ordinary ones, and they look more watery. For example, the strawberry at the front is generally the size of a ping-pong ball, but these radiation-proof strawberries have the size of a fist, which is almost the same as an apple. In addition to strawberries, crops such as corn, rice, cabbage, and cucumbers have all grown in size to varying degrees. Compared with ordinary crops, their size is between 2 to 3 times. And the output is extremely high. On a half-meter-high tomato seedling, there were densely packed fruits. Li Tianran checked it roughly, and there were as many as 187. The heavy fruits hang on the ground like bright red gems. In fact, in Li Tianran's view, the value of these fruits far exceeds that of gems. After the end, those luxury goods will soon depreciate, and the value of food will skyrocket. I believe that it won't take long for a gem of the same size, not even a tomato. Seeing the fruitful fruits in front of him, Li Tianran's satisfaction came to him spontaneously. He opened his arms and felt, this is my country. A series of data appeared in front of him again. Radiation-proof tomato, rich in nutrients, 128 kinds of trace elements, long-term consumption, can effectively improve physical fitness, storage time of 30 days. Radiation-proof cucumber, rich in nutrients and rich in vitamin C. Soon, Li Tianran read all the data of these crops. These radiation-proof crops not only have one more anti-radiation virus property than ordinary vegetables, but also a big part of the nutrition and health of ordinary vegetables. Almost all the nutrients shown in the data can be compared with some health-preserving medicinal materials. Most importantly, the last description of these crops, long-term consumption can effectively improve physical fitness. To put it simply, even if Wu Dalan eats these dishes for a long time, he can be taller than O'Neill, stronger than Xiang Ba Wang, punch Ximen Qing with one punch, and play a trapeze with Pan Jinlian by the way. Cough. Pulling away. Li Tianran looked at the crops in the garden, his heart beating wildly. The doomsday is coming, although the shelter is very important, but to survive in the doomsday, he can't stay on the farm for a lifetime, and out of the shelter, he still needs strong physical strength to protect himself. With these things, basically hunger and weakness have nothing to do with oneself. Moreover, this is only radiation-proof farming. There are 3 farming farms of ancient medicine, god, and super god. Their additional effects will definitely be more terrifying. Maybe you can change it directly after you eat it. Into a Superman. Li Tianran endured the surprise and began to harvest the vegetable garden. Although there are harvesters on the farm, harvesting is different from planting, and it takes a lot of time. It was already 10 o'clock in the morning after Li Tianran had harvested all the farming. In the farm shed, at this time, like a hill, piles of cucumbers, white radishes, strawberries, tomatoes, and other more than a dozen kinds of vegetables and fruits are stacked. Crop. A pile of radiation-proof cucumbers, weight, 300 kilograms. A pile of radiation-proof strawberries, weight, 100 kilograms. A bunch of radiation-proof tomatoes. Pieces of data are very humane in Li Tianran's mind. The total of the farming in these 10 greenhouses has reached an extremely terrifying number. Total, 6,000 kilograms. 12,000 caddies. If it is only used for storage as food, these grains may be able to eat Hanan to grow up. But this is just a calculation, food simply cannot be stored for such a long time. Li Tianran looked at these crops with complicated eyes. Before the era of destruction, the 6,000 kilograms of farming could only sell for 30,000 or 40,000 yuan at most, and it would take nearly half a year for watering and caring. After all kinds of expenses aside, only 130,000 or 40,000 yuan can be left. Around 10,000 yuan. Only earn 10,000 yuan in half a year. This is also the reason why many people, including some of Li Tianran's relatives, look down on him very much, and even disconnect from him. However, this farm is the only legacy left by Li Tianran's parents. It is a place where countless efforts have been devoted. Li Tianran really doesn't want to give up, so it has only been many years since Li Tianran persisted. But now, the situation is completely different. Tianran Li is confident that if all these fruits and vegetables are delivered to the market now, the 6,000 kilograms of farming can be sold for at least 600,000 yuan. And as time goes by, the price will get higher and higher. It's just that Li Tianran has no plans to sell. At this moment, compared to the money that will only depreciate more and more, the points of the system are what he needs most. So he thought for a while and decided to save 100 kilograms of food in storage, and all the rest would be converted into points. Are you sure you want to recycle 5,900 kilograms of radiation-proof agricultural crops? The system issues an inquiry. Li Tianran's decisive choice confirmed. Ding! Recovery succeeded. Congratulations on earning 59,000 points. Congratulations to the player for completing the first recycling, achieving the achievement Recycling Master and getting rewards for Intelligent Working Robot X3. Is there any reward for the first recycling? Cool. That's so cool. Li Tianran looked at the series of points in his mall and the 3 intelligent robots suddenly appearing in front of him at this time. A sense of satisfaction filled his chest. At this time, Li Tianran, who was occupied with excitement in his mind, did not notice. In the corner of the greenhouse, more than a dozen ancient medicine-grade agricultural plants had pulled out finger-long green branches. Unlike the radiation-proof crops, the ancient medicine-grade crops are emerald green, crystal clear, and beautiful like works of art. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com exudes a faint medicinal fragrance. Like a lonely snow lotus on the snow-capped mountains for thousands of years. Central Hospital. President Liang, thank you for your donation. Director Wang looked at the young man standing in front of him and said with exhaustion, the 20 ventilators donated by your company are really helpful. Liang Tianyu stood there and shook hands with Director Wang without expression. If it were not for the strong request of Vice President Ren, he would not hesitate to persecute at the cost of tearing his face. He would never stand here at this time, nor would he give up his benefits and make donations. Director Wang, I would like to ask, is there a cure for this kind of emergency caused by eating poisonous vegetables and meat? Liang Tianyu asked. To be honest, we are now at a loss. We only rely on ventilators and cardiac machines to maintain the vital signs of patients, but this will only extend their lives by a few more hours at most. Director Wang sighed. That means, it's a terminal illness, right? Liang Tianyu asked. That's right. Director Wang nodded and said, since yesterday, a total of 189 people in Nanjing have been rescued because of this symptom. There are hundreds of thousands in the world. But as long as they get on the operating table, the death rate is 100%, so far there hasn't been any example of life-saving. Hearing this, Liang Tianyu narrowed his eyes slightly. Faced with such horrible news, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I have something to do, so I'll go one step ahead. Liang Tianyu nodded, and after saying goodbye to Director Wang, he turned and walked out of the hospital with his assistant. Director Wang only heard the faint intermittent half-sentences. At all costs, find, try it, maybe, great wealth. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. Cauldron, is this really edible? In the small building, Han Han, who had just woken up, held an apple-sized strawberry in a daze, and asked suspiciously. Of course. I just tasted it, it tastes good. Li Tianran put the newly harvested radiation-proof vegetables into the freezer in the kitchen, and turned around to answer Hanin's question with a chuckle. But this strawberry is so scary. Han Han tilted his head and blinked his eyes and said, in fairy tales, the fruits that look delicious are poisonous. Such as Snow White's poisonous apple. Hearing this, Li Tianran raised his eyebrows and asked, do you think you are Snow White? Ha. Han Han arched his nose very proudly, saying that his beauty could be compared with Snow White. Snow White doesn't have your little fat face. Li Tianran squeezed Hanin's fleshy cheeks. It hurts. Hanin spread his teeth and danced his claws, like an angry little beast, breaking away from Li Tianran's claws and then angrily placing the big strawberry on the table. Hanin is angry, Hanin is going on a hunger strike. Really not. Li Tianran picked up the strawberry and shook it in front of her. No. Han Han turned his head very spinelessly, trying hard to keep himself from looking at the red, tender, and dripping big strawberry. Then I will eat it myself. Li Tianran turned around. Han Han swallowed hard, his eyes drifting in the direction of Li Tianran unconsciously. No way. Li Hanin. You have to hold on. How can you bow to the big bad guy? But that strawberry looks so delicious. If you bite it down, it should be sweet all day. Thinking about this, her saliva almost came out. Click. Hanin walked up to Li Tianran angrily, crossed her waist, pretending to be cold, and said, if the big pot is willing to apologize now, Hanin will forgive you, and Hanin won't go on a hunger strike again. Li Tianran glanced at her, raised his eyebrows, and deliberately turned his head to look away. Wu, De Guo has changed his heart, De Guo has never treated Han Han like this before. Han Han understands, Han Han has disappeared from your eyes, and will never reappear again. Han Han curled his mouth and cried. Said, Hanin will make you regret it forever. I'm really afraid of you. Li Tianran reluctantly handed out the strawberry in his hand, and gritted his teeth and warned, in the future, show me less brain-dead soap operas. Hanin hugged the big strawberry, akimbo like a victorious general, there were no traces of tears on his face. Pouting proudly, no. On TV, girls deal with boys by crying, making trouble, and hanging themselves. Cauldrons eat this too. Li Tianran finally couldn't bear it, grabbed her, ignored her strong protest, and rubbed her neat short hair into a chicken coop. Xiao He was lying on the sofa, looking at the noisy brother and sister, his eyes were accustomed to. This is not a quarrel, but a way to express love. Cauldron, these fruits are really sweet. 5 minutes later. Hanin sat on the sofa with a fruit platter in his hand, and kept sending it to his mouth with a small spoon. There was a light in his eyes that only experienced foodies could have, it's a taste I've never tasted before. Xiao He next to the sofa also hugged a big strawberry, wagging his tail to eat. Li Tianran has already tasted the taste of radiation-proof fruits. It is indeed much stronger than ordinary fruits. It is sweet and refreshing. After eating, there will be a warm feeling in the body, and it seems that even the fatigue is cleared. Do you like it? Li Tianran asked with a smile. Like it? Han Han nodded frantically. After that, brother will bring it to you every day, okay? Li Tianran asked again. Han Han's eyes flashed with countless little stars, and then after thinking about it, he took a spoonful of fruit pieces and handed it to Li Tianran's mouth and said, "Eat the big pot too. I'm not hungry, you can eat by yourself." Li Tianran waved his hand. The effectiveness of radiation-proof farming to alleviate hunger is also very strong. From last night to now, he only ate 2 tomatoes, but he didn't feel hungry at all. "Take a bite." Han Han said again. "I'm really not hungry." "Okay." Hanin sat down obediently, and she glanced at Li Tianran's face from time to time. Her heart said that the cauldron is really powerful, and she can actually refuse the temptation of sweet strawberries. How did he do that? As a senior greedy cat, Hanin couldn't understand this problem anyway. Jingle bell. At this moment, Li Tianran's phone rang suddenly. He looked down, and the smile on his face disappeared in an instant. Zhongling. This is the second time I have received a call from Zhongling since the era of destruction. Although he didn't know the purpose of Zhongling's call, Li Tianran no longer wanted to have any trouble with Zhongling. Since it is going to be broken, it must be broken cleanly. He directly pressed the hang up button. I thought it would be clean for at least a moment, but I didn't expect that the ringtone rang like a reminder again less than 10 seconds after the phone was hung up. Jingle bell. Jingle bell. No play, no more, right? Li Tianran looked at the words Zhongling on the screen, and finally started to get irritable. He got up and picked up the phone and walked to the kitchen. After closing the door, he pressed the answer button. "Okay, I'll just listen to what you can do with me." The call is connected. Opposite Zhongling seemed to be in a very noisy environment, with messy shouts and screams from time to time, as well as the constant sound of car sirens, which was extremely ear-piercing. "Hello? Something?" Li Tianran's voice was very cold, and asked impatiently. Zhongling's voice on the phone was also a little hoarse. After hearing Li Tianran's voice, he was a little surprised. It seems that Zhongling did not expect Li Tianran to answer his phone. "Hey, Li Tianran! Are there any grains and dishes stored in your farm? I didn't grab the rice at home. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com is about to run out of food. You can bring me some over." Go straight ahead and put forward his own request. I will post the list to your WeChat in a while, and you just need to prepare according to the list. Li Tianran sneered upon hearing this. Zhongling has always been like this. In the past, when they were dating, Zhongling never called him when he was okay. Once he took the initiative to call him, he would either ask for money or be a free laborer. Until now, after breaking up, she still hasn't changed in half, and she's filled with what she deserves. "Miss Zhong, did you forget that we broke up?" Li Tianran said indifferently. "I don't seem to be obliged to help you with your business." Zhongling was stunned for a moment, and then his voice became cold. "Li Tianran, you are really unfeeling. Don't you look at the old love at all after such a long relationship?" At this moment, there was a man's voice on Zhongling's side, sounding very irritable. "Xiaoling, what are you going to do with him? These stinky farmers, taking advantage of the current market price, really regard themselves as personal things. Ask him, what is the price of his rice and vegetables? Give him 10 times. Li Tianran squinted his eyes when he heard the words, and he heard the man's voice, the vice president of Zhongling's company. An anger rose in his chest. "Okay, Li Tianran, since you don't want to miss the old feelings, then we will come to discuss business. You are now sending 100 kilograms of rice, 100 kilograms of white flour, and 100 kilograms of vegetables. The price you pay, the money, I'll give it to you." Zhongling's voice also became cold. 30,000? 50,000? Or 100,000? Li Tianran smirked. 5,000? 100,000? Tell you, this little money can't even afford a carrot in my family. The first publication of this book is from 17K Novels. The first time you see the genuine content. 100 kilograms of rice, 100 kilograms of white flour, 100 kilograms of vegetables, these are added together. Li Tianran spit out a number in a cold voice, simply and a inspiring, friendly price, 8 million. Li Tianran, are you crazy? Zhongling was furious as he listened to Li Tianran's words. Well, just hold your bit of rotten grain and get moldy. I don't believe it. Without you, we will buy it. No food. No longer paying attention to Zhongling's rage, Li Tianran directly hung up the phone. He would never sell the food to Zhongling, even if the other party was willing to pay the money, he would refuse. Those words just now are purely playing with her. The current situation is still unclear, and the radiation-proof farming on the farm is different from ordinary food. If it is exposed, it is inevitable that people with bad intentions will have some greedy ideas. Li Tianran's power is not strong enough at this time. If people are watching now, there will be no peace. However, through Zhongling's phone call, Li Tianran also learned that the food shortage in the outside world has begun to develop to a very serious point. The food stocks on the market must be very difficult to buy, otherwise Zhongling would not call himself. Li Tianran guessed right. Although the country is already actively mobilizing grain reserves, because people don't know when the disaster will end, so the whole country is rushing for grain, hoarding a large amount of grain, and the transferred grain has just arrived, and it was sold out in an instant. If the problem of toxins in the soil cannot be solved, after the stored food is used up, new food cannot grow, and the famine will still swallow humans like demons. Time flies. In the early morning 2 days later, Li Tianran got up early and hurried to the planting area. Today is the mature day of ancient medicine-grade farming. He couldn't wait to take a look at the magic of this third-level farming named ancient medicine. In the past 3 days, he did not idle, but planted the radiation-proof agricultural work again, supplemented with the accelerator medicine, and harvested a total of 4 times in 3 days, a total of 21,000 kilograms. He once again left 30 kilograms of fruits and vegetables according to their categories, and all the rest was sent to the recycling system, and he was rewarded with 210,000 points. In addition to the points obtained before, he is now eligible to spend a little time in the mall. Pushing open the door of the greenhouse, Li Tianran could smell a very strong fragrance of Chinese herbal medicine before he could see the scene in the field clearly. This scent is very elegant, as if it can calm down the manic mood. Li Tianran turned his head and looked into the greenhouse. It was specially opened up to be used as an xiaoshenlong to distinguish it from those radiation-proof farming. The xiaoshenlong is about 4 square meters in size, with 12 leaves scattered like emerald jade. The cut carrots exude a faint fragrance. Ancient medicine-grade carrot raw length, 100% effectiveness, eliminate all negative effects such as poisoning and patient's storage time, unlimited explanation, as long as there is a breath, I will be your mobile ICU. Seeing this introduction, Li Tianran was stunned. His hands trembled unconsciously. Where is this vegetable? This is simply a treasure of heaven and earth. Put it in martial arts novels, this is the 9-year-old pill that can solve the world's poisonous and dying wounds. Li Tianran can fully imagine what kind of shock it will cause in the medical world if this thing is taken out. Compared with it, even if it is a century-old wild ginseng or a 1,000-year-old fire ganoderma, it will have to stand aside. One sentence eliminate all negative effects of poisoning and patients, including irreversible damage caused by negative effects, is enough to kill tens of thousands of drugs known in the world. Simply put, with it, any terminal illness can be cured, even if you drink paraquat as a drink, or use rat poison as a jelly bean, you will not die. This powerful effect is worthy of its ancient medicine name. Li Tianran carefully dug out these 12 ancient medicines with a small and held them in the palm of his hand as if he was holding the most precious treasure in the world. It has been included in the system backpack, and you can take it out when you use it. I don't know if these ancient medicines can detoxify those radiation vegetables. Li Tianran suddenly thought of a question. After a moment of silence, he muttered to himself, "It seems that I still have to try it." Li Tianran is a person who never trusts foreign objects easily. Although ancient medicine-grade vegetables are very effective in data introduction, Li Tianran does not know whether the specific effects are exactly the same as the introduction. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. In case something goes wrong with this system, or the effect of these ancient medicines is exaggerated, it will be very troublesome if you wait until you need to take them in the future. After thinking about it, Li Tianran decided to wait for time to experiment. It's easy to test. Now the irradiated plants are all over the streets, and you can go to the slaughterhouse and get a piggy back. Look at your own attributes. Li Tianran called up his attribute panel and looked at it. After eating radiation-proof vegetables for 3 days, Li Tianran obviously noticed that his physique had changed, his strength had become stronger, his body had become lighter, and he didn't feel tired from work. He knew that this must be the additional effect of strengthening the physical fitness of the radiation-proof vegetables. Li Tianran age, 22 strength, 11 wisdom, 11 speed, 11 resistance, 11/11ths evaluation. This is an adult man whose physical fitness and intelligence are at his peak. He is wary of everything, calm and alert. His sister and dogs are the things he cares about most. He looks very gentle, but don't try to touch his bottom line, otherwise you will know that he is more terrifying than the devil. All the data have increased a little more than 3 days ago, and the effect is remarkable. But looking at his own comments, Li Tianran was a little speechless. Am I so cruel? Obviously very gentle, all right. But tenderness is only shown to my sister. Li Tianran smiled. At this moment, the patrol guard suddenly issued a harsh siren, warning. Warning! Someone is trying to invade. Li Tianran's face changed, and his eyes suddenly became cold. The first publication of this book is from 17K novels. The first time you see the genuine content.